She came downstairs in a brand new apron-striped linen, the kind you order online because it photographs beautifully, and she walked into a kitchen that was cold and dark and completely empty. No food, no prep work, no smell of anything cooking. Just a table, a folded piece of paper, and a small glass sitting on top of it like a paperweight. She picked up the note, she read it, and then she just stood there. That was the moment my wife and I were somewhere over the Gulf of Mexico, 35,000 feet up, watching the sun come in through a plane window, drinking terrible coffee, and saying absolutely nothing. Because there was nothing left to say. My name is Raymond Collier. I'm 62 years old. I spent 30 years as a structural engineer, mostly commercial builds, a few big public projects, and the last decade of my career managing construction oversight for the city of Atlanta. What that job taught me, the one skill I carried into retirement like a tool I couldn't put down, was how to look at something that appears solid and tell you, with confidence, exactly when it's about to fail. I did not expect to need that skill at my son's Thanksgiving table. But here we are. Before I tell you what happened, I need to tell you about my wife. Because this story only makes sense if you understand who Dottie is first. She taught third grade at Carver Elementary in Southwest Atlanta for 26 years. Same school, same grade level, same hallway. She knew every child's name by the end of the first week. Not just names, she knew which ones needed extra time on reading, which ones were holding something hard at home, which ones lit up when you gave them a job that made them feel important. She had a gift for seeing people. A real one, not the performative kind you put on LinkedIn. The kind that costs something, because you're actually paying attention. She is the most capable woman I have ever known. She is also, and I say this with full understanding of what it cost her over the years, someone who spent the better part of her life making things easier for everyone around her, often before they even thought to ask. Our son Marcus is 33. Steady, methodical, the kind of man who checks his work twice and builds things that last. I am proud of him in the particular way a father is proud when a son turns out to be not just successful, but genuinely decent. He married Priya 2 years ago. Small ceremony, their backyard in Decatur, string lights and marigolds, and a caterer Priya had found 3 months in advance because she planned everything 3 months in advance. The week before, Dottie had stayed up 2 nights altering the linen napkins Priya had ordered online because they were a half-inch too long, and Priya had mentioned, once, in passing, that she preferred them folded a certain way. I offered to help. Dottie said she had it. That was Dottie. I liked Priya from the start. She was organized, direct, and completely certain about what she wanted, which are not bad qualities. The thing that took me longer than it should have to name was this. Priya's certainty about what she wanted frequently included certainty about what Dottie should be doing. And the way she communicated that certainty left very little room for the answer to be anything other than yes. I noticed it early. I said something to Dottie once. She told me I was being protective. She wasn't wrong, but I wasn't wrong either. It started small, the way these things always do. Priya's birthday dinner, 14 months into the marriage. A Wednesday text to Dottie. Hey mom, thinking low-key birthday Saturday, Marcus's family, maybe 12 people. Your jerk chicken would be incredible. Not a question. Not only if you have time or would you be willing, just a statement of intent. Already dressed and waiting at the door, Dottie made the jerk chicken. She also made rice and peas, a mango avocado salad, fried plantains, and a coconut layer cake from scratch, because she had heard Priya mention once, months before, that coconut was her favorite. That was Dottie. She listens. She acts. She doesn't make a production of it. Nobody said thank you after dinner. Priya posted photos of the table on social media. The jerk chicken did not appear in any of them. I want to be honest with you, the first time that happened, I told myself it was an oversight. The second time I told myself I was being uncharitable. By the 4th or 5th time, I had run out of charitable explanations, but I still didn't say anything, because Dottie had asked me not to, and I respected that. What I didn't do was push. That was my failure, and I own it. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, on a Tuesday evening, I was in the den watching the news when Dottie came in from the kitchen holding her phone out to me without a word. I read it. 2 turkeys, combined weight over 20 pounds. Cornbread dressing from scratch. 8 pounds of mashed potatoes. Collard greens, candied yams with brown sugar and pecans. String bean casserole, cranberry sauce fresh, not canned. Sweet potato pie. Peach cobbler, dinner rolls, homemade. Mac and cheese, baked. A charcuterie spread for arrivals. 12 dishes. Below that, 22 guests confirmed. Dinner at 6. I need you there by 7 a.m. The kitchen is yours. I read the last line twice. The kitchen is yours. Not our kitchen. Not would you mind, or we'd love your help, or only if you feel up to it. Just, the kitchen is yours. Like a project assignment. Like someone had submitted a work order and was confirming the contractor was on schedule. I looked up at Dottie. She was standing in the doorway with her arms crossed, not angry yet, just very still, the particular stillness she got when she was deciding whether something was as bad as it looked. It was as bad as it looked. I'll call Marcus, I said. No, she said, quietly but completely. Let me try first. She typed back, that's a lot for one person. Maybe we can divide up some of the dishes? Priya's response came in 90 seconds. Mom, you've done it every year. You're honestly so much better at this than any of us. We're going to be running around with everything else, and you just make it look effortless. Dottie read it, set the phone face down on the coffee table, and sat down next to me. She didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. We just sat there in the light from the television. If you have ever watched someone you love get managed instead of respected, talked to with warmth that functions as a wall, you know the particular helplessness of that moment. You want to fix it, and you can't fix it for them. 2 Sundays before Thanksgiving, Marcus had the family over for an informal dinner pizza, a bagged salad, nothing anyone had cooked. Dottie waited for a natural pause in the conversation, and turned to Priya. I've been thinking about Thanksgiving, she said, keeping her voice easy. Maybe Kezia could bring a couple of the sides. Or we could order the pies from Oleander Bakery, they do a wonderful sweet potato. Priya laughed. It was a warm laugh, surface level, and completely finished underneath. Mom, she reached over and patted Dottie's hand. That's literally what you're known for. Don't overthink it, everyone's coming specifically because of your cooking. It's going to be so beautiful. Kezia, Priya's younger sister, nodded along. Kezia's boyfriend looked at his phone. Marcus looked at his pizza. I watched my son look at his pizza and say nothing. Not one word. I had raised that boy to speak when something wasn't right. I had told him, more than once, that silence in the face of something unfair is its own kind of statement. He had apparently left that lesson somewhere between 25 and now. I kept my face exactly where I wanted it. 30 years of project meetings taught me that anger shown before you know what to do with it is wasted. On the drive home, I said to Dottie, that's not happening. She looked out at the Atlanta lights going past on 285. I know, she said. Then, after a moment, I already have a plan. I looked at her. She was almost smiling. Tell me, I said. That night, Dottie called her oldest friend, Carolyn Marsh. They'd taught together at Carver for 19 years before Carolyn retired to Savannah. They talked every Sunday morning over FaceTime. I sat in the kitchen while Dottie was on the phone in the bedroom, and when she came out 20 minutes later, she looked different. Settled. The way she looked, when she'd made a real decision, and it had already taken hold. She sat down across from me at the kitchen table and put both hands flat on the surface. Carolyn invited us for Thanksgiving, she said. Her daughter's place in Tybee Island, back porch, open water, her grandmother's roast chicken. I said, I'm in. She looked at me. Just like that. Dottie, I said. Priya sent you a staffing request. Marcus watched her do it and looked at his dinner plate. Carolyn is offering you the Atlantic Ocean and somebody else's grandmother's chicken. What exactly is the decision here? She exhaled a long, Slow exhale, like something that had been compressed for weeks finally releasing. She pulled her laptop across the table. I watched her find the 6:10 a.m. out of Hartsfield Jackson on Thanksgiving morning. 2 seats. She looked up at me once. I nodded. She hit confirm. The texts kept arriving all week. Monday. Just a reminder, the rolls need to be from scratch store. Bought always tastes flat. Wednesday. Hey mom, for the dressing, please use the cast iron, not the glass dish, it gets a better crust. I found a video if you need it. Friday. One more thing. Fresh cranberry sauce, not the can. Todd and Renata are real food people, and I want everything elevated. Todd and Renata. I asked Dottie who they were. She said, Marcus's director and his wife. I sat with that for a moment. This Thanksgiving, the one with 12 dishes and a 7 a.m. start time and explicit instructions about cookware was not a family dinner. It was an audition. Priya wanted to impress Marcus's boss, and she had decided that Dottie's hands, Dottie's decades of muscle memory, Dottie's jerk chicken and sweet potato pie and baked mac were the instrument she would use to do it. Each text arrived with the same breezy certainty. Dottie replied to everyone with a single word. Okay. I asked her once if that was wise. She said, I'm not deceiving her. I'm just not arguing with someone who's already decided they know the ending. I had been married to this woman for 36 years. I knew her particular quality of calm when she had committed fully to something. It was the same calm she brought to a difficult parent-teacher conference. Patient, clear, done negotiating. The boarding passes were printed and sitting in the tray on my nightstand. Seats 12A and 12B, 6:10 inches the morning. We were already gone in every way that mattered. 8 days before Thanksgiving, I called Marcus myself. Dottie had asked me to wait, but I am his father, and there are things a man needs to hear from his father, especially things he doesn't want to. Marcus answered on the second ring. I kept it short. Marcus, your mother was handed a 12-dish list for 22 people with no help offered and a 7 a.m. start time. She told you directly it was too much. I need you to fix it. A pause. Dad, I know, but Priya's already got everything. The centerpieces, the setup, the seating. It's really just the food part. Just the food part. Marcus, I said. Another pause. It's just this one time, Dad. I had heard enough job site conversations to recognize when a man was repeating words that weren't originally his own. Those were Priya's words, preloaded and waiting. I said, I'm telling you clearly. Your mother is not going to be the catering staff for your wife's networking dinner. You need to figure this out, he said. Dad, I really think I love you, I said. Good night. I hung up. Dottie was at the kitchen table when I came back. She looked up, read my face. He's not ready to hear it yet, I said. He will be. She nodded once, slowly. Then she stood, went to the hall closet, took down her suitcase from the top shelf, and set it on the bed. She looked at it for a moment. Then she started to pack. I want to stop here and ask you something. Have you ever told someone a hard truth, told them clearly, told them with kindness, told them twice, and watched them choose not to hear it anyway? Not because they couldn't understand, because hearing it would require them to do something uncomfortable. Drop a number in the comments, 1 if you've been there, 2 if you're there right now, because what I'm about to tell you is the part of this story that changes things. The night before Thanksgiving, after I finished packing, I went to the kitchen and stood there for a minute just holding still. There's a cast iron skillet that hangs on the wall above our stove, heavy, seasoned black, been in Dottie's family for 3 generations. She uses it for everything. Cornbread, fried chicken, the mac and cheese she was supposed to be making tomorrow morning. I stood looking at it, and I thought about all the Thanksgivings we'd spent in this kitchen together. 30+ years of them. She ran the operation. I was support staff. I could not peel a sweet potato to any standard she'd recognize. But I could stand next to her for 8 hours, hand her things, make her laugh, and make absolutely certain she was not alone in there. That was the thing nobody in this situation had thought about. Not just the labor, the company. I turned off the kitchen light and went back to the bedroom. Dottie was sitting at the edge of the bed with the yellow notepad in her lap. She'd written something on it a few days earlier, 4 sentences, folded once. She unfolded it now and smoothed it flat. I read it over her shoulder. Marcus, I love you, and nothing that happened has changed that. But I told you I couldn't do this alone, and no one heard me. So we're going to spend Thanksgiving with Carolyn. We'll be back Sunday. The kitchen is yours. Love, Mom, and Dad. She had already added "and Dad" at the bottom, in different ink. I hadn't asked her to. She set the note in the center of the kitchen table, reached up to the cabinet, took down a small juice glass she used every morning, and placed it over the note like a paperweight. We stood together in the kitchen for a moment. The house was quiet. The cast iron skillet hung on the wall. We're going to hear about this, I said. Yes, she said. Marcus is going to be upset. Yes. I looked at her 36 years of marriage, and she still had a way of looking back at me that held more than most people could fit into a full conversation. You ready? I said. I've been ready for 2 weeks, she said. I turned off the kitchen light. She carried her suitcase to the door. I carried mine. We called the car together, standing side by side in the hallway. The driver didn't ask us where we were going at 4 in the morning, which was perfectly fine. He had a jazz station playing low, and the heat set just right, and Dottie sat next to me in the back seat with her hands in her lap, and the stillness of someone who has made their decision and is simply letting it happen. Hartsfield-Jackson at 4:30 in the morning has a specific quality, not empty, but suspended, like it's holding itself between one thing and the next. I bought us both coffees from a kiosk. They were aggressively bad. We drank them anyway. Dottie's phone had 4 unread messages from Priya sent the night before. Reminders, instructions, an exclamation point. Neither of us opened them. At 5:50 they called our boarding group. We stood in line, and I thought, right now, 22 people believe a Thanksgiving dinner is being prepared for them. In a few hours, someone is going to walk into a kitchen and find a note under a juice glass. My phone buzzed as we stepped into the jetway. Marcus. Hey Dad, swinging by to pick you and Mom up around 8. Priya wants her there by 9 to start. See you soon. He didn't know yet. I put the phone in my jacket pocket. We found seats 12A and 12B. Dottie took the window. The plane pushed back at 6:14, 4 minutes late, which felt exactly right. When the wheels left the ground, Dottie put her hand over mine. We didn't say anything. We didn't need to. Carolyn Marsh was waiting at the Savannah arrivals with 2 real coffees, and the complete absence of any dramatic reaction whatsoever, which is exactly what you want from someone who has known you for 20 years. She hugged Dottie first, then looked at me. Raymond, you actually came. Did you think I wouldn't? I thought Dottie might talk you out of it somewhere over South Georgia. She tried, I said. Dottie looked at me once. Once, I added. We drove to Tybee Island with the windows cracked. The air was salt and warmth and something green, and living that November in Atlanta makes you forget exists. After 30 years of city traffic and project deadlines, it felt like a different planet with better light. Carolyn's daughter's place was a white board and batten cottage 3 blocks from the water, with a screen porch that faced east and caught the morning in long flat pieces. A tabby cat named Justice observed our arrival from a porch chair and returned immediately to sleep. We took our coffees to the porch. Dottie's phone lit up on the table. Marcus. Then Priya. Then Kezia. I turned it face down. Carolyn looked at me. You know it won't stop. It'll stop when it stops, I said. She handed me more coffee. Let me tell you what was happening in Atlanta. At 8:47 inches the morning, Priya came downstairs in her new linen apron. She had told Kezia about it the week before, how she planned to document the morning, the golden kitchen light, the flower on the counter, the beginning of something spectacular. The kitchen was dark, cold, no Dottie, no Raymond, no turkey thawing on the counter, no prep, no smell of anything. Just the table and, on it, a small glass, and, under the glass, a folded note on yellow paper. She picked it up. She read it. She stood completely still. Marcus came downstairs 2 minutes later and found her exactly as she was. He read the note. He told us later he stood there for 30 seconds without speaking. Then he called me. No answer. Called Dottie. No answer. Called the house line on the chance we'd somehow left our phones and were sitting home in the dark. Then he texted. Then he called Kezia. Kezia arrived at 9:15, still in her coat. Priya, can you cook a turkey? I've never cooked a turkey in my life. Kezia's boyfriend offered to find a tutorial online. Nobody took him up on it. Meanwhile, 22 people had confirmed. Todd and Renata, the director and his wife, had RSVP'd within a day of receiving the invitation. The centerpiece flowers had been delivered. The linen tablecloth was already pressed and laid out. At 9:30, Marcus drove to Publix. The Thanksgiving section was down to 2 frozen birds, both needing 3 days of refrigerator thawing. He stood in the freezer aisle with a cart and no good options. He came home with 4 rotisserie chickens from the deli, 2 boxes of instant mashed potato flakes, a bag of frozen rolls, a sweet potato pie from the bakery case with a small dent in the box, and a cheese board kit with pre-cut Gouda and water crackers. He remembered at the last second that Priya had planned a charcuterie spread. Kezia attempted the collard greens from a recipe on her phone. She got a call. She forgot to check the pot. The kitchen smelled like scorched vinegar for the rest of the afternoon. At 1:15, guests started arriving. Todd and Renata came in at 1:30, precisely on time, in the manner of people attending a professionally adjacent event who have already calculated exactly how long they intend to stay. Todd wore a blazer. Renata brought wine, handed it to Priya at the door with a smile that gave away nothing. The table looked beautiful. Priya had a real eye for it, the pressed linen, the amber and ivory centerpiece, tapered candles at every place setting. She had put genuine care into how it looked. And then the food came out. 4 rotisserie chickens arranged on her good platters. Instant mashed potatoes with a faint grayish tint in the candlelight. Frozen rolls cool in the middle. The sweet potato pie on a cake stand, its dented edge just visible. Renata looked at the spread, set her wine glass down carefully, said nothing. Priya smiled at the table and said there had been a last-minute change with the in-laws. Todd said, "That's a shame." He ate one of the rotisserie chickens without complaint. In the kitchen, Marcus stood at the counter with his back to the room. He had asked his mother to cook for 22 people alone. She had told him plainly it was too much. He had said, "Can you just do this one time?" Standing there looking at deli chickens on his wife's good china, Marcus understood not just in his head, but in his body, the way things land when they finally stop bouncing off the surface what that one time had actually meant. On the porch in Tybee Island, Dottie's phone rang. Priya. Dottie looked at it, then at me, then at Carolyn. Carolyn looked at her chicken. Dottie picked up. "Mom." Priya's voice was half an octave higher than usual, tight at the edges. "Where are you? Do you understand what's happening here? Todd is at our table and there is nothing ready. You could have at least called." Dottie set her fork down. She looked out at the water. When she spoke, her voice was the same one I'd heard her use for 26 years with the parents who came in. Already decided, already certain, already in the posture of blame. "Priya," she said, "I told you I couldn't do this alone. I said it 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. I said it again at Sunday dinner. Raymond called Marcus directly. No one heard us. A silence. So we made a different decision." Another silence. "That is so selfish." "We'll be home Sunday," Dottie said. "I hope the rest of your evening goes well." She hung up. Carolyn refilled her wine without being asked. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. "Marcus," I answered. He didn't speak right away. I could hear him outside, the muffled sound of the gathering behind a closed door, and then just wind and quiet. "Dad." His voice had changed. The defensive layer was gone. What was underneath was quieter. The sound of a man who has stopped performing and started actually feeling something. I don't know what to say. I knew it was too much. I kept telling myself it would be fine, that you'd both just— I didn't say anything when I should have. He stopped. I'm sorry, Dad. Tell Mom I'm sorry. I believed him. Marcus had never been dishonest with me. He had chosen the easier path, stayed quiet to keep the peace, let things slide because confrontation felt costly. That was a failure of nerve, not of character. There's a real difference. And if I'm being completely honest with you right now, I had made that same failure earlier in this story. He came by it honestly. I know, I said. We'll talk Sunday. Go take care of your guests. Is the food decent? He paused. It's rotisserie chicken from Publix, Dad. I looked at the plate in front of me. Carolyn's roast chicken, crisp-skinned and fragrant with lemon and garlic and thyme. Real mashed potatoes with butter still melting in. The last of the afternoon light coming gold across the inlet. I looked at Dottie across the table. Relaxed. Finally. Genuinely. For the first time in 3 weeks. The food here is wonderful, I said. Sunday, he said. Sunday, I said. And I hung up. If you have ever been in a room or a kitchen, or a family where someone looked right at you, and saw only what you could do for them, not who you actually were, then you know the particular exhaustion that Dottie carried into that porch. Not anger, not bitterness. Exhaustion. The kind that comes from decades of showing up without being truly seen. And if you know that feeling, I want you to understand something. What Dottie did was not dramatic. It was not a performance. She did not send a long message explaining herself. She did not make a scene at Sunday dinner. She simply, quietly, chose herself, and the moment she did, every dynamic in that family had to reorganize itself around a fact it had never had to account for before. Her absence. That is the thing most people miss. You don't have to burn anything down. You just have to stop showing up on demand. We flew home Sunday afternoon. Atlanta, was gray and drizzling. The particular November gray that makes you grateful you spent 4 days somewhere with salt air and a tabby cat named Justice. The rideshare pulled into our driveway and Marcus was sitting on our front steps. Not his house. Ours. He had driven 40 minutes without calling ahead to sit on our steps in the November drizzle. That told me everything. A phone call is a preliminary. Showing up in the rain without an appointment is a statement. He stood when I came up the walk. We looked at each other. He looked the way people look when they've been honest with themselves about something for the first time and it cost them sleep. He said, Priya didn't come. I said, okay. We went inside. The kettle was already on. Dottie had come in just ahead of me. The 3 of us sat at the kitchen table. The same table where the note had been 4 days ago. The same chairs we'd used for 30 years. Marcus said, I knew it was too much. And I said nothing. I kept telling myself it wasn't worth a fight. I let Priya treat you like you'd always just be there. And I convinced myself that was okay. He stopped. It wasn't. No, I said. It wasn't. He'd been expecting more scaffolding around the truth. I didn't have any to offer him. Dottie put her hand over his on the table. We love you, she said. That's not changed and it won't be. But we will not be made invisible for someone else's convenience. Not even for yours. I hear you, Marcus said. Good, Dottie said. And she poured the tea. We sat there for a while without filling the quiet. It was the kind of silence that only comes after something true has been said and actually received. The quiet on the other side of a real conversation, when everyone in the room has stopped performing. It was the best 30 minutes we'd had together in 2 years. Priya called on Monday. I answered. I want you to know, she said, that what you did was genuinely hurtful to me. Priya, I said, I understand it felt that way. And I'd like you to understand that when you send someone a 12-dish list and call it a family invitation, that's hurtful too. We can talk about this honestly, or we can leave it here. Your choice. A silence. She hung up. She called back Wednesday. This time she asked questions instead of issuing instructions. She asked how Tybee was, said she had been thinking. She did not apologize in those exact words, but she listened. Actually listened. The way she hadn't in 2 years, and I recognized that as the closest thing to a real opening we were going to get. Dottie took the second call. They talked for 14 minutes. Longer than they'd ever spoken, Dottie told me afterward, without Priya assigning her something to do. There was no grand resolution. No moment where everyone understood each other perfectly and pledged to be new people. That's not how families work. What changed was more functional than that. An assumption had been removed. The assumption that our time, our labor, our willingness were simply available on demand, indefinitely, without question. That was gone. And without it, things had to be negotiated. Which meant they had to be talked about. Which meant everyone in that family had to start acting like people with actual choices. That was enough. Marcus started calling more, asking questions instead of reporting decisions already made. Small things that added up to something real. Dottie signed up for a watercolor class at the Hammonds' house on Tuesday mornings. She'd been wanting to for 2 years and kept pushing it back, because there was always something someone else needed first. We booked Tybee again for February. Carolyn was already planning which restaurants to try. One Saturday morning, I made my Dutch apple pancakes. My one real contribution to the kitchen. The one thing I had perfected over 30 years of weekend mornings. Dottie poured coffee and sat at the counter, and we did not talk about Priya or Marcus or Thanksgiving or any of it. We just had breakfast. And I thought, this is what it was always supposed to be. The two of us in this kitchen on a Saturday morning with nowhere we had to be. This. Right here. A few weeks after we got back, Dottie was going through a box on the closet shelf and found an old photograph. Thanksgiving, 8 or 9 years ago, judging by how the kitchen looked before we repainted. She was at the stove. I was standing behind her, arms around her shoulders, my cheek tilted toward her hair. We were both laughing. I don't remember what at. Something small. Something that landed right. I didn't remember being photographed, but I remembered exactly how it felt. Not watching from a comfortable distance. Not stepping in for the moments that needed me and disappearing for the rest. Just in it. For all of it, because that was where I wanted to be. Because she should not be alone in that kitchen. Because she had never once asked me to stand there, which made it more important, not less. That was the thing Priya had never understood. And the thing Marcus had lost somewhere along the way and had to relearn the hard way. You don't send someone you love a work order. You show up, not because they asked you to, because you want to be in the room with them. Dottie put that photograph in a small frame and set it on the kitchen shelf. We stood there looking at it for a minute. We should have gone to Tybee years ago, she said. We were exactly where we should have been, I said, until we weren't. She looked at me. That's very philosophical for a Sunday afternoon. I'm a deep man, Dottie, she laughed. And I thought that is what the 36 years were for. Not to produce Thanksgiving dinners for networking events. To produce this. The two of us, in our kitchen on a Sunday afternoon, laughing at something small, with nowhere we had to be and nothing we owed anyone before Monday. If you've ever been handed a list instead of an invitation, this story is for you. You don't have to justify your absence to people who never noticed your presence. Here is my question for you, and I genuinely want to know. Comment 1 if you think Raymond and Dottie made the right call. 2 if you think they should have confronted Priya more directly. 3 if this story hit close to home in a way you weren't expecting. Tell me where you're watching from, and what time it is there. I read every single one. And if you've ever set a boundary that felt like a risk and then felt completely right the moment you finally did it, tell me about it below. Because someone scrolling through these comments right now needs to read your story. If this one meant something to you today, pass it to one person who needs it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, this is the moment. More stories like this one are waiting for you, and I don't want you to miss a single one. This is a fictional story inspired by real emotional experiences, fully rewritten and reimagined in Atlanta, Georgia to create original content. Any resemblance to real people, living or dead, or to actual events is entirely coincidental.